Welcome back to Q&A. This is my fourth video. Yes, and today's topic is raising children. You may recall that at the end of quarter one, I put a selfie and a box on Instagram stories asking you to share or ask me any questions in any area or topic. Well, of course, when you open up that can of worms, you are going to get such a variety of topics that I decided to break the video down. The first Q&A video, I covered several topics. The second Q&A video, I covered all of the questions pertaining to health and wellness. The third video I published was the questions that had to do with navigating relationships. And today's video is the questions that pertain to raising children. I strongly and highly encourage you to watch all of the videos and you will get all of the questions. I didn't eliminate anything. I shared every question that came in and I put the boxes up so that you could see them. I'm going to do things a little different at the end of quarter two. I'm actually going to ask you what topic first you would like me to do a Q&A end of the quarter video on. The area that gets the most votes is the area that I will take your questions for a video for the end of quarter two. I did in my last Q&A video ask if you would like me to bring Paul along to cover the questions on raising children, but it is so hard to get our schedules to match up where he's here at the time that I film. So I just decided, I've been at this a long time. I have 5 children. My oldest is almost 30. My youngest is 17. I don't need Paul here. We're on the same page. Paul and I are on the same page, so that speaks for itself. But I do know that you do really enjoy when I bring him along. I'm just going to tackle the questions on my own because I have hesitated and continue to move this video waiting for our schedules to match up, and it just doesn't work that way because a lot of times on the weekends I'm not filming. So I'm just going to cover, I think there's 9 questions. I'm going to cover them on my own. So without further ado, let's dive into the first question, and they're in no order. Actually, my daughter typed these up for me. I told her where to resource the little boxes on my computer, and I said, will you type these up for me? So it was even interesting what she had to say. So the very first one is, did any of your daughters walk the path of a behavioral health journey? I really didn't exactly know how to approach this question or what exactly the person was looking for, but I had a hunch, and ironically, my daughter who typed this up came back and shared with me what she thought, and we were kind of on the same page. So I think the viewer is looking for, did anyone ever struggle with something that would be more of a behavioral issue? We're not talking about teens having poor behavior. We're talking about coming from like a mental health perspective. And I can actually say, not while the girls were growing up. I can't say that I haven't had a daughter struggle a little bit in her adult life just because of some of the things that took place in her childhood, unfortunate things that took place. And sometimes it doesn't really surface until later on in life, but she has taken the right health modalities to help her, and we support her along that journey. And it's a real personal journey, but we didn't really see it growing up. It kind of manifested later in life, even though still young adult, still young adult. I will add in that Paul and I were fortunate where we never had concerns about our girls' self-esteem. I think there's a combination of what causes low self-esteem in childhood and upbringing in teen years. I do believe they can be really tough years, but we never really had concerns. We never had concerns about our daughters' relationships with their friends, being picked on or bullied. Not that there weren't things that took place, but never anything that was above and beyond what is just kind of normal childhood circumstances and situations. So we were really fortunate that none of our girls, we ever encountered that. Moving on to the next question, do you think your daughters missed out on time with you due to your early bedtime? While that's kind of a strange question, and actually my daughter who typed these up said, that is just a weird question. She's like, who would have wanted to hang out with their mom and dad when they're a teen? But I think I understand what the person is sharing. Well, first of all, you have to understand when Paul and I were raising kids, our early bedtime was a later early bedtime, right? 9, 10 o'clock. Probably for many years, I would say it was more like 10 o'clock. I was on a 10 p.m. with a 5 a.m. wake up, and Paul would have been about the same, a little bit before 5 for him, because our girls were active in extracurricular activities and sports. So when that's the case, there's many nights, as you would know, if you're parenting tweens and teens or even young children, you are not even getting home until between 8 and 9. When our 4th and 5th daughter, when Paul and I would even take them to Wednesday youth group, we wouldn't even get home until 8:30. So you have to understand, because I do go to bed very early today, when we were raising our girls, that wasn't necessarily the case, but I can see for a lot of people, 10 would be very early. 9 is very early. It's always important to realize that when you work, often your bedtime is kind of dictated by the time that you have to leave for work. Paul has always started at 6 a.m. through all of our kids' childhood. From pregnancy on, he's always had a 6 a.m. startup. So he's always had to leave for work by around 5:30. So that's a little different than those husbands that don't need to be to work until 8, right? And I stayed on his schedule, and when the girls were small, we kept them on that schedule as well. I mean, my granddaughter, June, who will be 2, in fact, we're celebrating her birthday tomorrow. She'll be 2 next Tuesday on my and Paul's 32nd wedding anniversary. Yeah, we celebrate our anniversary on her 2nd birthday. It's just such a beautiful blessing. But she's 2. She'll be 2 next week, and she goes to bed between like 7:30 and 8 because same thing. She has a dad who starts work at 6 a.m. and my daughter, June's mom, works as well and starts at about 8 a.m. So if you work, you get this. I understand those of you that are not employed, don't run a business, wouldn't really understand having a sleep schedule. But those of us that work, we really do have a sleep schedule, and it's so that we can get to work, right? I start taking my first client at 8 a.m., but there are times when I will take a client as early as 6 a.m. So my bedtime and wake-up time today fits my work today, and my 17-and-a-half-year-old, she is not missing out on anything with me that she would need me for past 8 p.m. In fact, she's not even usually home because she generally doesn't even get off work until 10, and she works several days, or she has activities. So no, the answer is no. In the short term, they never missed anything. But I'm sure there's some people pleaser tendencies out there that think, oh, I have to be right at their door, and I'm sure that you're driving them bonkers. Find something to do is what your kids want to tell mom. And that's true. Sometimes moms, they just need to find something to do, right? You don't want to become an empty nester and not had something to do while you were raising your kids, because it's going to get real lonely when they leave the house if you didn't find something to do. So there's a little tip for you, or something to chew or stew on. How did you deal with any attitude from your teenage daughters? Well, we didn't have a whole lot of it because we didn't tolerate certain behavior, certain attitudes and language being worn on your sleeve. It's okay to feel what you're feeling, and we always allowed our kids to have their feelings, right? But to show up with it and be disrespectful, which would be attitude from your teenagers, it just wasn't something that we were open to. So they could talk to us, and when you're ready to talk, we're happy to join in that conversation and that dialogue, but we really didn't take the attitude bait. Yes, it's called bait. They will toss that bait out there and fishy, fishy, mom, latch on, mom, fishy, fishy, and moms latch on quite frequently, and then they reel you in. Just understand, if you have a tween or teen that has an attitude, and they may, because there's a lot going on for them, and that's okay. They're human too. They have emotions, and we shouldn't encourage that they suppress their emotions, but it's how you show up with others, because attitude could be disrespect. And I think that's really where we're going. It's okay for teens to be in a bad mood. It's okay to have down days. We allowed our girls to be who they were and what they were feeling, but being disrespectful was just something that wasn't up for negotiation. They knew that if they were disrespectful, there would be consequences, and because we followed through, they knew better. So having all girls, I can't tell you how many times Paul and I would hear, daughter, I can't imagine all those hormones and all those teens. Well, you always knew that this was coming from probably someone who had no control over the environment in their home. And often that's the case. No, it's not as difficult as you think if you just really step up and you do a good job. You do a good job. So again, whatever we tolerate is what they'll dish out, especially if they know they'll get what they want. So a good tip for that is, when there's an attitude or a negative connotation or a little sass behind it, they don't get what they want, right? You can speak to me like an adult, which is what you will be, and we can talk about this, right? Yeah, so this is more on the parenting than it is actually on the teen, believe it or not. How did you handle your daughter's dating? Meaning, what were the rules and expectations, and how do you handle them choosing their partner? Well, let's start with the dating rules and expectations. We didn't have written rules. We didn't have a document with this is the dating rules, and really we didn't even have laid out exactly what the expectations were. You get a feel for each child, and it's a little different because not all teens are really into dating. Some teens are more into their activities, their girlfriends, if they're working, if they're in extracurriculars. So they may not show significant signs of having a desire to have an actual partner, a boyfriend. So what we did with our girls is we just paid attention to the cues that they gave us. And if we observed there was something that could turn into a relationship with someone, that's when we kind of came in and expressed what our expectations were and what the rules were around that relationship. It really was no different with girlfriends. If one of our daughters had a girlfriend that maybe we had some concerns about, we kind of got the inclination that she does a lot of lying. She lies to her parents. Maybe just in listening to our own daughter talk about that friend, we're picking up like, this seems a little off or fishy. This particular friend sounds like she's being a little dishonest. Maybe the parents aren't on the ball. So just like a relationship with a boy, the same thing applied if it was a girlfriend. If we had concerns then we would lay out the expectations and what the rules were around that. And they may not have those same rules with another friend because we really trusted what our gut told us. Again, we were fortunate that we never really had one daughter give us a run for our money with dating. I'm not saying that there weren't a couple of boys that came into the picture that maybe we thought this just isn't going to go anywhere. It's not going anywhere, and it really kind of proved itself because it didn't go anywhere. So I believe all kids are individual, and it shouldn't just be one written rule, right? You really have to look at the situation, what that child is like, how much elbow room you give them. Yeah. Great question. And then how do you handle them choosing their partner? Well, we really don't have that option. While they're dating, if you are uncomfortable with someone they're dating when they're still in your home and they're a teen, expressing that probably would be in your best interest, but it's how you approach the topic. I think too many parents approach it incorrectly and they don't really get the results that they want. If you really are solid and convicted that you really have raised your kids well, if you see someone come in that just doesn't seem like it's going to be a good one, your daughter figures it out. And you don't even really need to. They start to see it. They really, really do. So sometimes let them kind of figure it out, right? Give them a little bit of elbow room so they can actually go, wow, no, just no. What was I thinking, right? And that's typically what happened and what showed up with our girls. And then if you were to talk about later in life, we have no say in who our girls choose as their partner. They're very smart, very independent, very solid individuals, and they should be able to make a really good choice on their own. And so far, so good. We are just pleased with the two sons-in-laws that we have, and our daughters that are dating. We're good to go. In fact, a couple of them, yeah, we'd love to see this go into a really nice direction because they would be more than welcome to be sons-in-laws. So I give a lot of credit to my daughters, but I think that has a lot to say about what they witnessed in the home and the type of relationship they observed from Paul and I. And they're smart girls, and I think they're going to make smart decisions. And so far, they've been showing us that they are. How to raise independent and confident children? Well, what are you? Right? Are you independent and confident? Is your spouse independent? Their father, their mother, are they independent and confident? If that's what you're modeling, it's really going to be a shoo-in, right? Because you're modeling it. I mean, pretty much, statistics would show that kids that come from homes where they're well loved and there's that confidence and that great communication are often going to be strong adults. And I believe a lot of it was having them work at a young age built a lot of confidence. The girls being in extracurricular activities, whatever that looked like for them in sports, built a lot of confidence and teamwork. A lot of skills came along. But they didn't really have a lot of opportunities to just sit around and do nothing and to live in this negative bubble that they could be living in, right? They stayed busy, they stayed active within reason, they had one another to really get some good people skills. We didn't hover, we didn't do for them. We let them be them and make a lot of decisions for themselves. And if you're listening to how I'm answering these questions, you're hearing over and over how we let them have their feelings. We let them have their emotions. We let them choose their friends and their partners. We just sat back, did a little observing, and kind of indirectly would see where we could get the word out of our feelings, our vibes. And I think that right there is just going to instill being an independent person and having confidence in that. If you are independent, there's going to be an element of confidence that comes with that. So great question. What are your financial tips for your daughters? Observe, watch us. right? Because we are great role models. And so we really didn't have to give a lot of tips. We guided. We really just guided, but they had great role models to watch, and they still do. And again, the reward is paying off because they are just doing so well. So it's really teaching them about money in a positive way and not to see money as negative, that earning an income is a positive. Again, confidence and independence. And it's okay to be driven. It's okay to be driven by money. What a great thing to be driven towards, right? So we had a good and positive relationship with money. Paul and I do not have a poverty or scarcity mindset, which poverty and scarcity mindset has nothing really to do with money. We just don't have that in general. So we didn't impose that scarcity mindset on our girls. So many parents do. The generations before me, the baby boomers and the generations before that, they had such a scarcity mindset, so many of them, and then they put that on their kids, and it makes complete sense why so many people think from that lens. Oh, I can't possibly look at it this way. I can't possibly think that I'm worth it or I have the value. No wonder so many people live with their negative inner voice, right? So be good role models. Talk about investing in finances and income and all these things all the time in a really positive lens, but let them know what the consequences are when you don't make these wise decisions. And they see it. Your kids will see it just like you see it. It's really just having an open dialogue. But too many parents are directing their kids instead of actually having a relationship with them and having a dialogue. Most parents' form of communication is telling, you do this, telling. It shows up later in life that you were being told, and you never were able to think for yourself. So collaborate, talk, but have an open dialogue where you have created a safe space for them to share their thoughts and views. How to help out-of-state adult children stay connected to their family? Well, they have to want it, right? They have to want it. So the person who reached out, maybe this is what you want, but they have to want it. If your adult child is had it with you because just maybe you didn't do a great job raising them and they're holding on to some wounds and scars that they're trying to work through, just understand, give them space, right? If they have a desire, if it's important to them that they stay connected with you, they will. And if they don't, maybe they're not in that season. I have a daughter that lived in New York City and now she's in Boston. And while we are all very close to her, she is in a stage in her life where she has a lot of friends. She has friends all over the world, even in other countries. So that's a big thing for her right now. She's not married. She doesn't have children. She's climbing and climbing ladders and leaps and bounds in her career. So we may not be her biggest priority right now, although deep at the core we are and we know it. We don't ever guilt trip her. We don't ever push her. We understand this is a season, and it's a beautiful season for her. We're thrilled for her. If and when she gets married someday and decides to have a family, it will probably change just like the children that live by us. The ones that are married and have children, they tend to want to do more with us because they're not out with their friends or out doing this. That just comes with the territory. So just be careful how much you're pushing, right? Because that's your agenda. Let them have their own agenda. Again, when we go back to independence and confidence, you have to let kids be them, right? Be them. Stop with the controlling. You can't even manage yourself half the time, right? So many people can't even manage themselves. So put the energy in you right now. And they'll come back. And if they don't, believe me, they have their reasons. Yeah, if a child pulls away from the family, they have their reasons. Yeah. You may have to think about what that is, right? Let's see. Did you pay for your daughter's engagement party? No, we didn't. I believe I believe Bobby's dad and stepmom picked up the dinner bill. I'm pretty sure. I actually don't fully know, but I feel that that's what happened. No, we don't pay for weddings or engagement parties. I do pay for a shower with a budget, and our girls get a lump sum of money when they're engaged to apply it however they'd like. Now, our 2 daughters that are married took their lump sum of money, which is a large lump, but we didn't pay for their wedding. They paid for it. They got a large sum of money from mom and dad. Here's your money. Here you go. Do with it whatever you'd like. Do with it whatever you'd like. Have a small wedding, have a big wedding, put it towards a house. Go buy a car. We don't care. It's yours. You don't get it again. You don't get it again. So if there's ever a second round, you don't get it again. This is yours. You're engaged now. You and your fiance decide how you want to spend your money. But the 2 daughters that are married did spend that money towards their wedding, but they paid. They did all the paying the vendors and everything. So they probably took that money and, I'm guessing, put it into a little fund. And then as they paid for certain things, they would take out of there. So I don't even know what all it went towards, because it was probably divvied up in just so many areas. It's a great place. Our girls are so thankful that we did that, because it gave them the freedom to create and have their own wedding. Paul and I just supported our daughters and sons-in-laws wherever they needed us in their wedding planning process. Where do you need us? Just, we're there. Where do you need help? Where do you need support? Whatever. We didn't choose anything. We didn't select anything. People will ask me sometimes, how did you know what to order? How did you know what to choose for the meal? I didn't choose any of the meals. Our daughters with their now spouses did all of that, which is exactly how it really should be. It's their day, right? Vendors actually loved me, because when I would go to different appointments with my daughters, they would be like, you're not normal. Most moms come in here and the daughter doesn't get 2 words in edgewise. Mom is controlling everything, and it's all about what mom wants. And they're like, we wish we had brides like your daughters who are actually creating their wedding, right? So yeah, I could go on and on about that and what a blessing it is when you are able to actually have your wedding your way. And then if you spend a lot, you spend a lot. If their weddings fell below what we gave them for a gift, they get to keep the rest and do with it what they like. If we have any daughters that decide we're just going to the courthouse, we're not even having anything, well, they'll have a nice lump sum of money that they get to do whatever it is they desire with their partner. Yeah. So, parenting, raising children, what a beautiful season it was for me, and it was for Paul. And I wouldn't go back, because I love every season I'm in. I love the season I'm in now. So I have no desire to go back, but I absolutely loved every single stage. And was it as hard as people say? There's a lot of other things in life that I found much harder than raising my children. So it just really wasn't, I don't know, I think it's an expectation thing. I think everything was kind of how I would have figured. How I would have pictured raising children to be. Raising 5 children, yeah, pretty much is exactly what I expected. Yeah. You have highs, you have lows. There's a contrast to everything in life, right? Yeah. Thank you for the wonderful questions. Thank you for all the questions in covering all 4 of the Q&A videos. Be sure to check out all the other ones. Jump on a cardio machine. You know I always encourage that. Listen, and I'm just here to share. I'm never pushing my thoughts, values, or beliefs on anyone else. In fact, I strongly encourage that you don't take anyone's advice, values, or beliefs unless it's truly what you desire. Then you can own it, right? That would be the biggest parenting tip I could give anyone, is just step in your power, stay in your lane, and decide how you're going to do things, and collaborate with your partner, their parent as well, to see how you can make this be a beautiful season for not only your children, but for you as well. All right, thanks for being here. Take care.